Well, how about that? The Miami Heat make this a 2-1 series, and suddenly this series is a little more interesting, especially if Bam can come back. There's a few things to talk about between the zone defense, LeBron and AD's games, and whatever else. But you got to start with Jimmy Butler. I don't think it was too complex to what he was doing. It was mainly mismatch hunting. It was attacking early in the shot clock, going off the catch, hitting some shots in the post, getting a lot of free throw trips. I don't know how many he had exactly, but it seemed like quite a bit. It seemed like there was a stretch in the fourth there, but the Lakers had no choice but to just foul him pretty much every time. And it was one of the better finals games that I can remember in a minute. 40 points, I believe it was. He also had like around 10 assists as well. I mean, this was the question. Like, when was Miami just going to give Jimmy the ball and just, still do their Miami thing with the handoff plays, the cutting, and all that stuff, but move away from that a little bit and just let Jimmy go to work? And we saw that happen tonight. The dude was just amazing. There's no other way to put it. I think he only missed like 5 shots total or whatever, and the Lakers just didn't have many options. I think, while of course Miami would prefer to have Bam out there, because they're able to put Olynyk or Leonard out there, it does open up the floor quite a bit. Now, I haven't looked at the minutes. I don't know if there was a center in the game the entire time for them, but still, like, you have to pay attention to that guy when he's out there, whether it's Olynyk or Leonard, and that does give Jimmy a little bit more of a driving lane. And I do think the Lakers gave Jimmy the switch too easily. Earlier in the series, we remember LeBron did a good job of fighting around the screen to not give that to Jimmy, whereas in this game, he did not do that. They switched every time, and Jimmy was able to get on KCP or Danny Green or whoever he wanted to. And, sometimes he was able to just body the guy out of the way or whatever, and you just simply can't have that if you're the Lakers. You have to make it more difficult for Jimmy. I know that's really obvious, but whether it's fighting around the screen, going under the screen, and daring him to take that three, or at least a deeper mid-range, or, there was one where Dwight was dropping on a screen, and the screen was within the three-point line, so Jimmy was able to get like a comfortable 12-foot bank shot or whatever. There's just got to be more resistance. Now, does there need to be perhaps some trapping? Without Bam, you'd think it'd be a little easier. Granted, Olynyk can do a bit off the dribble. And there was one play I remember where they did trap. It might have been Jimmy, but it was at least some ball handler, and it led to a pretty open layup. So, I don't know. But that was just, it was still extremely impressive by Jimmy. But the Lakers did not do themselves a whole lot of favors with making him go to his plan B or whatever. It was a lot of time it was pretty obvious what he wanted to do. He wanted to get somebody on a switch, he wanted to go at him, or he wanted to run a simple pick and roll, and the Lakers just kind of let him do it, I guess. As far as other things that happened for Miami on offense tonight, I did notice that there was a lot of cutting. I feel like it happened a little bit more in the first half, but I do think it was an extra thing that gave the Lakers some trouble. I don't know how many baskets Miami actually got off of those cuts, but I think it was at least a solid 2 to 4 or something. Olynyk had a pretty solid performance again, 17 points. He had 24 in the first one. And, kudos to Olynyk. He's not a defensive liability out there. He was a -1, but I don't think that is reflective of him playing poorly or anything. And I do think just his threat as a shooter is giving the Lakers some trouble. The biggest three to remember from him was that great tip pass from Iguodala after, I believe it was a Kendrick Nunn drive. And he got a fortunate bounce on it, but it's just that extra guy that the Lakers have to guard. And, I don't know if Bam is going to be back for Game 4. We'll have to see. But Olynyk has certainly earned minutes even with Bam back. Whether that means you're going to see Bam and Olynyk together, I don't know about that one. I wouldn't be shocked by it, but I wouldn't bet on it either. At least not for long stretches, but who knows? Maybe that's the move for Miami. And then other than that, it's the general Heat stuff, which again, I think we saw more in the first half. The handoff plays, the cutting, the off-ball screens. They did have some plays where And this was part of Jimmy's thing where they would have a guard or a wing set a screen for Jimmy, and that would freak the Lakers out a little bit more. I know Tyler Hero overall didn't shoot well, but I think some of the shots he made were pretty big. He had a drive on, I think it was Caruso kind of late. He had a three that I think made it from a 3-point game to a 6-point game that was kind of contested, so it really was a hell of an effort. And also, I think for the second straight game, Miami shoots insanely well from the free throw line. They shot 91% at the line in this game. Most of it was Jimmy, not all of it was Jimmy. Anyway, we talk about the Lakers. I'm going to point to LeBron and AD on this one. They were not good enough. LeBron had 8 turnovers. You know, his stat line, 25, 10, and 8. Okay, cool. But when you're actually watching it, there were a lot of moments of inactivity in the Lakers offense and LeBron just kind of dribbling it up and just looking a little lethargic. He does tend to do that sometimes. And I think we got the worst of it in this one. He did have a couple of moments at the rim where Miami contested him really well. They also stunted on his screens, and I think that threw him out of whack because they didn't just give him the Duncan Robinson or whoever switch in this one. They did a much better job of having that guy step up and not give LeBron the driving lane, and then he's able to get back to like whether it's KCP or whoever. So that was really well done on their part. I think I mentioned that they contested him well at the rim a few times. He claims that he was fouled on some of them. I don't know. And then, again, the 8 turnovers. He also had a couple of travels in the fourth quarter. So LeBron, he did not put his best foot forward in this game. As for Anthony Davis, I mean, he did have some foul trouble. He ended up with 33 minutes. I don't know if it's a matter of him not commanding the ball as much or the Lakers just kind of forgetting that he was out there, but there were a decent amount of stretches in this game where it looked like AD was just another guy out there, where the Lakers just were not looking his way, and it was kind of weird because if they don't do that, then they're going to lose. Granted, Markieff Morris and Kuzma almost bailed them out because they both shot really, really well. They shot 9 for 19 from 3, which is good, but you know, AD, he still needed to be himself, and he was not himself tonight. And as far as what Miami did, I mean, for one, they put Iguodala on him. Not as strong as, well, is he stronger than Crowder? I guess I don't really know, but he's a better defender, certainly. He's a little longer, I would imagine, as well. And they combine that with the zone, which I think just looked a little better tonight at times. And they had 2 defenders pretty close to AD at all times, and I think that combined with the foul trouble and the flow of the game, just getting to a point where AD just kind of fit into the game more so than was controlling what was happening, I just think he had an off night. As far as what the Lakers can do besides just simply give him the ball more, I mean, could they not run some of the things that they ran in the last game to go at Miami's zone, where it was getting a guy into the middle of the floor, or having LeBron move off the ball and just allow him to improvise down there, whether it's you pass him the ball and he goes up with it or he passes it off to somebody else. We did see a bit of AD at center, but I don't think we saw a single LeBron-Anthony Davis pick and roll. I think this could have been the perfect game for that, especially if you set it really high, because, I mean, I've said so many times now, just give LeBron a super high screen, but it barely ever happens. And I think tonight could have been the perfect game for it, with how the Lakers' offense was not good. I mean, the turnovers in the first quarter were really, really rough. You could tell from the beginning that, I mean, to be honest, I don't even know if Miami did anything strictly different with the zone other than put Iguodala on Davis, but clearly it bothered the Lakers more than in the previous games. So yeah, that's what I got. The one other thing I will say about the Lakers, and this is going to be some optimism for Miami, is that Duncan Robinson has not gone crazy yet. And he missed a few shots in this one that you'd expect him to make. And given that Miami, they found a way to make this 2-1, who says that in the next game, Duncan Robinson doesn't go like 7 for 11 from 3? That's always a possibility with him. So now I guess the big question is Bam coming back for Game 4? Because if Bam can be the dude in the middle, making things happen defensively, whether it's guarding AD, protecting the basket, all that stuff, and if he can just build on what Miami did in this game, could we be looking at a 2-2 series? I don't know. I don't expect LeBron and AD to, especially in the case of AD, to be as blah or just not good as they were in this one. But even so, Miami definitely has things that they can look at as real cornerstones for the rest of the series, between stunting on LeBron's screens, having Iguodala on Davis, bringing extra attention to AD, and having Jimmy just be a little bit more aggressive. So I would say this series suddenly became a lot more interesting. And if Bam is going to be good to go for Game 4, then it could be pretty good. And depending on if we get the announcement that Bam will be playing or not, I guess we'll determine if I do a preview for Game 4. So yeah. Kudos to Miami. This series, yeah, like I just said, it's suddenly a lot more fun. So yeah.